in that case?
Well, this gentleman that had contacted us was involved in the September 11th attacks.
Oh,
he was a senior master sergeant in the Air Force stationed at the Pentagon and was on his way to work that morning, saw the plane come in and crash into the building, and in fact the backblast from the plane had thrown him across the parking lot into a light pole, and he suffered a subdural hematoma, which is bleeding of the brain. But he got up afterwards, kind of dusted himself off, and just bolted for the Pentagon and just started pulling people out of the wreckage. He even saved the life of an infant that was unconscious that he revived. I mean, somebody had a bullhorn. He ended up taking control of that, set up a triage, and basically just took control of the whole recovery situation. And in the aftermath, he was awarded a Purple Heart for the injury that he sustained, and also the Airman's Medal, which is the highest personal decoration that you can receive in the Air Force. And that was in 2001. In 2006, he was medically retired because he was still having complications from those injuries.
Right.
The military gave him a 20% disability rating, and he was advised by the VA that he would be receiving 100% disability, because he also had a Purple Heart from Vietnam. So he's 2 Purple Hearts, medically retired. Well, he filed his disability claim, and this is a typical story, this part of the story is, that he filed his disability claim when he got out in December of 2006, and it had been about a year later when he contacted us, and still he had not received a word from the VA. In fact, in that time they had lost his medical records twice and asked him to resend them. And each time that he resent them, they forwarded the date to that new date. So he wasn't going to get the back pay anymore from the original time that he filed. And I mean, that's something we typically see too. So on top of all this, he's only receiving a 20% disability rating from his initial Purple Heart dating back in 1970 in Vietnam. And on top of that, because he had served 37 years, he qualified for the retirement pension and all that, but they made a clerical error in his retirement pension, so he was only receiving 1/3 of his entitlements for his pension. So he couldn't pay the bills that he had now because he wasn't making the same income that he had made before, and just his problems were just spiraling out of control. And we ended up having to contact representatives in his area, and even they were willing not to do that much. I mean, we really had to take it to the nth degree to get anybody to budge on it, which is really a shame and a pity. But it's sort of a typical prototype story that a guy goes in, he puts in a claim with the VA, he doesn't hear anything, he's waiting a year, 2 years. I mean, and because the VA is so undermanned, under-budgeted, overburdened. You have a backlog of claims of 600,000 claims. Some people say 800,000 claims. So a person files a claim, gets into the system, but they end up waiting just long periods of time before they're receiving compensation. And the problems that occur there is that a veteran might not be able to pay his bills because he's disabled, and he's waiting for this disability check to start kicking in. And in the meantime, he really can't work because of whatever issue that he's dealing with. And then on top of that, a lot of times what we're seeing is, there's employment issues if it's PTSD, so he can't work, he's got no income, and that's where people end up homeless and on the streets waiting in limbo for a VA disability benefit to come through.
Now, do you think the VA, you guys wouldn't be around, or the organization wouldn't be around if VA was doing its job properly?
These community-based organizations and national organizations such as ours will be needed even if they were doing their job properly. There are just so many claims that they have to file themselves, and their claim process is so arduous at that.
Very cumbersome.
You have to get somebody to fill out your paperwork for you. It's a veteran service officer. They go to a 6-month course in learning how to fill these forms out. So once a veteran gets a veteran service officer to fill out the forms, then it goes to another level of quality control to a reviewer. The reviewer reviews the claim, makes sure any medical records or any other reports and letters of support are included in the package. Then after that it goes to a rater's desk, who is the person who actually assigns a rating per the disability.
Right.
Then, if it gets that far, if it isn't sent back at any one of those points, now mind you, this is still a file that's all paper. So if the records are lost 5 and 6 times from just going from one location to another. They're not always done in the same building. Sometimes they have to be mailed out to another location. If it's being handled at a vet center, a community-based VA center, then the records have to come from the regional office. And in this instance, the records were lost 2 times before they ever got to a rater's desk. So there's a lot of room for error on the VA's half. Certainly, the organizations like ours, community organizations, when it comes to financial help, are important. Locally, the electric companies, the phone companies need to get involved and help veterans through this period of time where their claim is just sitting on somebody's desk. That is a great deal of the emails and the calls that we get are from veterans who have maybe had 2 or 3 jobs in the time that their claim has been processed. They simply can't sustain the job, whether they have a physical injury that keeps them from performing the job, or whether it's the PTSD that keeps them from performing. For whatever reason, they either get fired or they're forced to quit. And the bills are piling up. The electric company doesn't say, we'll put it on hold, we'll wait for you to get your claim. The phone company wants their money right now. And it's a business. I understand that.
But it's very impersonal, basically.
It really is. I got a call the other day from a woman up in Northern California whose husband is on oxygen and needs a machine to be plugged in. Well, the electric company was going to turn off their electricity for a $150 bill. And I had to get in contact with the electric company in order to put a waiver on their bill. So basically they waive the $150 so the veteran can come home. Now, this happens all over the country. In Los Angeles, definitely it being the largest veteran base, we receive a lot of calls for financial assistance.
Well, thank you. Thank you for the information. We had 2 folks here from the National Veterans Foundation. Tyrone Ballesteros, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Cameron White, thank you also. That was
Thank you
very
for having
informative.
us.
Thank you very much. And join us again next time for City of Achievement.